July 10, 1940, southern coast of England. The sky over the channel began to change long before the first engines were heard. Dark formations appeared on the horizon, hundreds of German fighters and bombers sweeping toward Britain in a mass of steel and fire, moving with the confidence of an air force that had crushed every nation it met. As they crossed the coastline, contrails twisted into spirals, machine gun bursts shattered the morning air, and the opening blows of a new kind of aerial warfare echoed across the landscape. The Luftwaffe believed Britain would fall quickly, that nothing could halt their advance. But waiting beneath those clouds was a fighter born from racing DNA, engineered with precision, and destined to turn dogfights into decisive moments of survival. The aircraft that would meet the invasion head-on, outmaneuver its enemies, and help alter the course of the war. This is the story of the Supermarine Spitfire. Fast, graceful, and deadly, the Spitfire stood apart from every fighter of its era. A single-seat monoplane descended from a proud line of British racing seaplanes. It became one of the most recognizable aircraft of the Second World War. It was the only Allied fighter to remain in continuous frontline service from 1939 to 1945, a rare constant in a war defined by rapid evolution. Alongside the dependable Hawker Hurricane, the Spitfire flew in every major theater of operations, dominated the skies in the 1940 Battle of Britain, and repeatedly shifted momentum in favor of the Allies. Its pilots came from across the world: Poles, Americans, Britons, Czechs, and many others, all drawn to the machine for its speed, its responsiveness, and the unique sense of harmony it offered between pilot and aircraft. Among them were Polish flyers who earned remarkable scores during the Battle of Britain, and the American Eagle Squadron pilots who flew Spitfires during the ill-fated Dieppe raid. Every pilot who touched the machine understood its brilliance instantly, referring to it with a simple, affectionate name: the Spit. At the heart of its creation stood Reginald Joseph Mitchell, a schoolmaster's son whose life had been shaped by engineering ambition. Born on May 20th, 1895 in the village of Talkey near Stoke-on-Trent, Mitchell left high school at 16 to apprentice in a locomotive factory. There, he built his own lathe, studied mathematics and design at night school, and revealed a natural gift for mechanical innovation. With growing interest in aviation, he joined Supermarine Aviation Works in 1917, a small company in Southampton focused on building seaplanes and flying boats. Mitchell rose quickly, becoming chief engineer and designer, and soon turned his attention to seaplane racing. Beginning in 1922, his designs dominated the prestigious Schneider Trophy races. His sleek S6B captured the 1931 race unopposed, securing the trophy for Britain and proving that Mitchell understood speed better than most engineers of his day. In 1934, when the Air Ministry issued requirements for a new Royal Air Force fighter, Mitchell prepared his first design, the F-730. Although promising, it failed to satisfy him, and he immediately began refining a more advanced concept. That same winter, while visiting Austria, German pilots boasted to Mitchell about their aircraft, a moment that stirred his urgency. With the possibility of another European war looming, he returned to England determined to create a fighter superior to anything Germany could field. He spent countless hours at his drawing board, pipe in hand, solving complex aerodynamic problems. Though shy, he was a strict taskmaster in his workshop, known for bursts of temper, followed by silent concentration. Meanwhile, Sidney Cam of Hawker Aircraft had already produced the Hurricane, which made its first flight on November 6, 1935, and was instantly recognized as a formidable machine. The Spitfire prototype was slower to emerge, but Mitchell persisted. On March 5, 1936, the aircraft designated K-5054 made its maiden flight at Eastleigh Aerodrome. Its hand-built airframe and revolutionary design immediately impressed observers. After initial testing, the prototype was evaluated at Martlesham Heath, where it achieved 430 miles per hour in a dive, an astonishing performance for its time. In early June 1936, the Air Ministry placed its first order for 310 Spitfires, even before receiving full test reports. If you're still here, I'd truly like to know, Had you ever heard the full story behind how the Spitfire evolved from a racing bloodline into one of the most decisive weapons of World War II? Tell me where you're watching from. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. The aircraft received its name officially on June 10, 1936. Although Mitchell disliked the name Spitfire, borrowed from the spirited daughter of Supermarine's chairman, the designation would soon become legendary. Demonstrations continued through 1937, but production was slow due to the aircraft's complex structure. Nonetheless, the first Mark IV Spitfire flew on May 14, 1938, and by August, No. 19th Squadron at Duxford received the first operational models. Capable of 355 miles per hour, climbing above 34,000 feet, and armed with 8 Browning 303 machine guns, the Mark I combined speed, maneuverability, and firepower in a way no previous British fighter had achieved. Later versions, equipped with the Rolls-Royce Griffon engine, would double the aircraft's performance, pushing speeds to an extraordinary 454 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest piston-engined aircraft ever built. The Spitfire's elliptical wings, retractable undercarriage, and sliding canopy were revolutionary innovations, though the aircraft's limited range remained its principal drawback. Meanwhile, Mitchell's health deteriorated rapidly. Suffering from rectal cancer, he continued working despite immense pain. After unsuccessful treatment in Vienna, he spent his final days at home, passing away in June 1937 at age 42. Contrary to popular belief, he had not worked himself to death, but he did not live to witness the Spitfire's service in combat. By the outbreak of war on September 1, 1939, the RAF had 1960 Spitfires on order with 306 delivered, enough to equip 11 squadrons. The aircraft's first combat occurred on October 16, 1939, when Spitfires of No. 602 and 603 squadrons intercepted Junkers Ju-88 bombers over the Firth of Forth, scoring the first kills for Mitchell's creation. Sporadic encounters followed, and the RAF suffered its first Spitfire loss on April 3, 1940, when Flight Lieutenant Norman Ryder ditched his damaged aircraft after downing a Heinkel HE-111. During the quiet months of the phony war, Air Marshal Hugh Dowding expanded and trained Fighter Command. By May 1940, 19 squadrons operated Spitfires, though Hurricanes still outnumbered them nearly 2-1. On May 12th, Spitfires mounted their first operation over continental Europe, shooting down several German aircraft despite losses. By late May, as Allied troops retreated toward Dunkirk, Spitfires and Hurricanes flew continuous sorties to protect the evacuation. Fighter Command lost 72 Spitfires in the process, nearly one-third of its frontline strength. After France fell, Hitler prepared to force Britain to capitulate. On July 10, 1940, he initiated an aerial campaign designed to annihilate the RAF and clear the way for Operation Sea Lion. Over the next 4 months, the Battle of Britain became the largest sustained air battle ever fought. Göring's Luftwaffe fielded 2,800 aircraft, while the RAF could muster only about 700 fighters, but British radar and Dowding's efficient defensive system offered a critical edge. German attacks intensified in August, targeting airfields, ports, and radar stations. Spitfires engaged enemy fighters, while Hurricanes tackled the bombers. The RAF pilots, later known as the Few, came from many nations, though most were British. More than 500 would die in the desperate dogfights over southeastern England. Despite Luftwaffe claims of crippling RAF losses, German aircraft losses were nearly triple those of the RAF. By September, Göring shifted strategy and targeted London directly. On September 15th, the RAF achieved its most decisive victory, downing 56 German aircraft. 2 days later, Hitler postponed the invasion indefinitely. Though air raids continued, the Luftwaffe's daylight dominance was broken. Hurricane and Spitfire pilots, average age just 20, emerged as national heroes, lifting British morale during one of the darkest periods in its history. After the Battle of Britain, the Spitfire's role expanded. It escorted bombers on daylight raids, conducted low-level rhubarb attacks, and faced new threats as the war progressed. Spitfires supported American daylight bombing missions, though their limited range prevented full escort duties until long-range fighters arrived. By 1942, Fighter Command operated 60 Spitfire squadrons, tripling its strength in 18 months. Spitfires soon proved decisive in North Africa and the Mediterranean during Operation Torch, and naval versions, Seafires, joined carrier forces. In Southeast Asia, Mark 8 Spitfires flew offensive missions along the India-Burma border and later defended Malaya, Ceylon, New Guinea, and Australia. Meanwhile, specially modified reconnaissance Spitfires gathered vital photographic intelligence across Nazi-occupied Europe. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, Spitfires provided vital top cover over the 5 Normandy beachheads. As Allied forces pushed inland, faster and more heavily armed variants supported ground operations alongside Typhoons, Tempests, Mosquitoes, and American aircraft. When Germany unleashed the V-1 flying bombs in June 1944, the RAF turned again to the Spitfire. Mark 14 variants, among the fastest piston fighters ever built, intercepted thousands of incoming doodlebugs, contributing to the destruction of 46-21 out of the 95-21 launched. Later came the V-2 rockets, unstoppable in flight, but less destructive than the V-1s. In October 1944, a Spitfire Mark 14 scored the first Allied kill against a jet-powered Messerschmitt Me-262. By the war's end in May 1945, it remained the RAF's primary high-altitude fighter. After the war, the Spitfire continued to serve in its role. It fought communist insurgents in Malaya in 1948-49, and Seafires flew ground attack missions during the early months of the Korean War. Many nations operated Spitfires, including Belgium, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, Czechoslovakia, Portugal, Greece, Yugoslavia, Egypt, and Israel. In the Arab-Israeli War of 1948-49, Spitfires fought against one another, the only conflict where the aircraft met its own kind in combat. In total, 20,334 Spitfires were produced across 21 marks, and 2,556 Seafires across 8 marks, a testament to a design whose brilliance endured long after the man who created it was gone. Born from racing bloodlines, perfected by a visionary who never saw it fly in war, and carried into battle by pilots from around the world, the Spitfire became more than a machine. It was a symbol of resistance, precision, and deadly capability. A fighter that met the greatest challenges of its time and helped secure the skies for the free world. If you're still here, I'd truly like to know. Had you ever heard the full story behind how the Spitfire evolved from a racing bloodline into one of the most decisive weapons of World War II? Tell me where you're watching from, and whether understanding the aircraft's origins, battles, and global impact changes the way you see the war. And if it does, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and stay with me for the next deep dive into the overlooked machines, missions, and people who shaped the course of history.